Hey my friends, welcome back to Staying Strong for Marriages, YouTube channel dedicated to helping people go through marriage separation or divorces. I wanted to do a quick video today on an article, Till Porn Do Us Part. It came up as I was looking at some of the No Nut November, some of the porn trends, some of the revenues basically coming from sex toys and pornography globally, US, the trends. And one of the things that came up in there was this article. So basically what they were trying to do is run a longitudinal study from 2016 to 2014, and they were trying just to determine, does pornography use predict a higher likelihood of divorce over time? What they found was that the probability of divorce roughly doubled for married Americans who began pornography use between the survey waves. Conversely, discontinuing pornography use between survey waves was associated with a lower probability of divorce, but that was only for women. So if men discontinued their use, it really didn't seem to have an effect. But if women discontinued, if she discontinued her use, then it did seem to make a big impact. Additionally, analysis showed that the association between beginning pornography use and the probability of divorce was particularly strong among younger Americans, those who were less religious, and those who reported greater initial marital happiness. So they tested for a lot of things. We're going to jump through. So every article starts with literature review. Here's some of the highlights from people that have done previous research prior to this. It says a recent study comparing pornography consumption across national surveys found that between 55 and 70% of men reported using pornography in a given year, and for women it was between 30% and 40% of women. And this is all for people under the age of 40. So for men under 40, 55 to 70% reported using, and women under 40, 30 to 40%. I thought that was a worthwhile thing to note. Look at a couple other things here. What else do we have? Some research explicitly connects pornography use with men expressing greater sexual boredom or disappointment with one's partner or spouse. It's from a 2008 as well as a 2011 study. Okay. It says many spouses, most often women, view their partner's pornography use as some form of infidelity. It's a number of different studies, looks like 6 there, that looked at that. Studies also found that women in heterosexual unions reported feeling more self-consciousness about body image or sexual performance as a result of their male partner's online sexual activities. Again, a lot of the same studies. So that was kind of where they jumped off from. Leading predictors of internet porn consumption was an unhappy marriage. So one of the things that they talk about at the end of the article is, is it a kind of a porn causes divorce, or is it unhappy marriages and divorces kind of lead to pornography? So which is first, the chicken or the egg kind of situation? And that was kind of one of the weaknesses that they admitted at the end of the study. We'll check that out, but just to give you a heads up. So what they call the bidirectional association between porn use and relationship quality. So that, like I say here, it is possible that the initial thrust for men to use pornography is due to sexual frustration or dissatisfaction in the marriage. One thing as a content creator I've tried to respectfully try to bring up is I hear a lot of women or people talking about, I think it's maybe understandable. You want people to treat you right, and so what do? It's some of this boundary stuff. It's some of this, well, let's withhold sex, or let's do these different tactics in order to kind of, force people to act the right way. It's really something that I'm hearing a lot of. Even I heard someone say recently, like, well, I had no choice but to throw my spouse in jail. I was really thinking, man, this is not going to improve the trust. You can't imagine that's really going to be something easy for this guy to return to this woman. She was standing for her marriage. She was praying for her marriage to be restored. I'm thinking this is a huge step in the wrong direction, So this is something that I'm going to get into later, but this whole idea of, let's punish our partner so that they'll start acting better. We can't be a doormat, right? We got to show that, we're strong and that they need to treat us, well. Otherwise, we're going to, I think what they said was like, take off the gloves. So this is really something I would ask everyone to think really long and hard about. So going back to this study, they try to prove, or they come up with 5 hypotheses, and so we'll just read them, and then some of them are well supported by their research, and others, they say, no, the data doesn't support these. So the first one, hypothesis 1, beginning pornography use will be associated with a greater likelihood of divorce among married people. The second hypothesis, the cessation of pornography use would be associated with a lower likelihood of divorce among married people. So that's kind of the other side of the coin. Start using, divorce is more likely. Stop using, marriage permanence is going to occur. The marriage will make it. What about number 3? Hypothesis 3, the association between pornography use and divorce will be stronger for men than for women. Interesting. Their 4th hypothesis, the association between pornography use and divorce will be stronger for younger Americans than for older Americans. Interesting how they came up with that one. I don't know how they came up with that one. And the 5th one, the association between pornography use and divorce will be stronger for Americans who are more religious than for those who are less religious. Now I can see why they would think that. There'd be a bigger stigma, maybe, is what they were thinking. So the really simplified version of their method was basically you're going to start with a couple that, or a sample group of couples where there's no pornography use before the study, so like in phase 1, and then there's still none in phase 2, so that would kind of be your control group. And then compare that to a group of couples that there was no porn use in stage 1, but then they started using in stage 2. Or, vice versa. They were using in stage 1, they stopped in stage 2. This kind of idea you could see. Now, I thought it was really interesting because I remember Jordan Peterson saying that, well, it's very difficult to do this research on pornography because, it was so difficult to find control groups where people weren't using, that like everybody on college campuses and all that stuff, or else people lied, and so then it's a little bit skewed. Anyways, so the results. It said Model 1 showed that persons who were married at time 1 and began watching pornography between waves were roughly twice as likely to be divorced by time 2 as those who did not watch pornography. So we saw that in the introduction and the synopsis, but that was kind of their first thing, and that's for everybody. They break it down into subgroups, but generally for everybody, twice as likely. Thus, our first hypothesis is strongly supported, which was basically, if you remember, that starting using porn will lead to higher rates of marital disruption. So, yep, that was well supported. Now they jump to the 3rd and go back to the 2nd. So the 3rd hypothesis, which was that viewing pornography would be more strongly associated with divorce for men than for women, was not supported. What happened to the likelihood of divorce for married persons who stopped watching porn between waves? It says Model 3 showed that married persons who leave pornography between survey waves were not significantly less likely to be divorced by time 2. So they're kind of saying it didn't make a big impact. This non-significant main association, however, is due primarily to stronger gender differences in the association between discontinuing porn use and becoming divorced. The significant interaction with gender in Model 4 suggests that women who quit pornography between the waves were significantly less likely to get divorced compared to men. So then they go back to their 2nd hypothesis. They say our 2nd hypothesis, which was that pornography cessation would predict a lower probability of divorce, was thus affirmed for women, but not for men. So I can only speculate. I won't speculate, actually. I'll just go with what the article has to say. So it says overall these figures suggest that women who watch pornography get divorced at higher rates than men. These graphs are a bit difficult. I think it was just easier to read and let them sort out for us the implications of the data tables. So here we have, among weekly attenders, however, we see virtually no difference in the predicted probability of divorce among those who never watch porn and those who become porn viewers. For those who do not watch porn, about 5% get divorced between waves compared to 6% for those who watch porn. And so these are for when they talk about regular attenders. These are people that attend religious, participate religiously or actively in religious associations. So this is a pretty interesting graph. By age on the x-axis, probabilities on the y-axis. This is about 52%, 20-year-olds. The black line adding porn, and this is with never porn. So pretty static. If you're able to avoid porn, both individuals, then it's less than 10%, maybe 6%, according to this graph. Scroll slowly. You guys can pause this if you like. One obvious possibility is reverse causation, which was what I brought up in the beginning. The persons who divorced between survey waves started viewing pornography as a result of the divorce, not the other way around. Another possibility is that intervening mechanisms are at work that our study has not controlled for, most notably respondents' sexual frequency or satisfaction at time 1. So they had a difficult time. They did ask, some questions, but they weren't able to capture that piece about the respondents. Our findings that beginning porn use was not more strongly associated with divorce for men compared to women, and that discontinuing porn use was only negatively associated with divorce for women, are both noteworthy because of previous empirical findings. Our study, however, found that married women who discontinued pornography use saw their likelihood of divorce decline by 2/3 compared to no reduction for men. An alternative theory is that women who started watching porn between waves were doing so because they were in an extramarital affair, according to a couple different studies. In this case, the introduction of porn and divorce for these women were both the result of a relationship already in decline. Research suggesting that religion serves to protect against divorce through the mechanisms of social control and internalized moral values have been supported by these 4 different articles. It says, while being embedded within religious community may increase the social or psychic cost of porn consumption and thus affect marital quality more severely than those who are less religious, it may also be a social and psychic deterrent to marital dissolution regardless of whether pornography is being used. Okay. So if you want more information, you can check out all manner of different articles here. It's probably more than you can pick up off the screen, so I'll simply leave a link for the article. You can definitely find, if you're not aware of Google Scholar, that's a great resource. It helps you find a lot of different academic articles, usually for free, from some university, and you can just read them and check these things out on your own. Hope that helps you guys think a little bit about the impact that pornography has on marriages, why God has spoken out against these things. Definitely just pray that God will help us, become more like Him to overcome temptation. And I know it's really hard for people. I hear often, like I just went and was talking with some friends, and people, it kind of hits them really hard where all of us, we kind of come to that point where if we decide marriage is for life and we're going to stand for our spouse and love them and respect our vows we made to God and obey and follow God and try to take His words and His commands seriously and look at these things from, avoiding adultery and all the implications that a life of adultery could have. And we get on board with all that, and then we really come at some point with a realization that, wow, no sex from here on out. That could become a real reality for people that feel like that they have years of years and years, decades of like sexual lives in front of them, and to try to clamp down on that and ask God to, by His grace, help them is very huge. I think people really struggle with it. I've definitely thought of those things. I'm like, man, this is really going to be tough. And so, but it's something that we all come across. And a friend of mine, a Catholic friend of mine, he's like, you gotta check out this E. Michael Jones guy. He's really saying some interesting stuff about, why is porn free, how it controls people, how it keeps people weak, how it keeps us from investing in these other areas of our lives, of following God, how it's premeditated or it's planned, it's linked to consumption, sex sells, and all this stuff. And so it's a huge distraction, and it's intentional. People want to get us stuck. They talk a lot about Augustine and all this bit about how he said that a man has as many masters as he has vices, and so how these things the Bible talks about, that anyone who sins is a slave to sin, these types of things. So I don't know. I wish this was even like a little bit more encouraging, but this is just one study. I think the right thing we know that we can do is, it did say very clearly that even if the data didn't support that men quitting porn had the same positive effect on on marriages. You know, they did say that there was some weaknesses to their study, and there was a lot of other studies that had shown that women, when their partner looks at porn, they feel really, you know, insecure, and it's not something we want, you know. So hope that helps you guys. Hey, please give us a thumbs up. That would really help the channel. Trying to grow, trying to see 1,000 restored marriages by August. Definitely think that's possible. Okay. We'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.